So, what happens when a world leader decides to skip the usual stuffy press conference and just sit down for a podcast? Well, we just found out. In what is a pretty historic first, French President Emmanuel Macron did exactly that, giving his first ever podcast interview while on a state visit to India. And look, this wasn't about quick sound bites or carefully prepared statements. This was a rare, unfiltered, long-form conversation, and it gives us this unique window into what he really thinks about the future of France, Europe, and, well, the entire world. The conversation really jumped all over the place, from tech competition to global strategy. So what is Macron's grand plan? Let's break down the big takeaways from this conversation.
Okay, first up, technology. Now, France has this long, amazing history of innovation, but Macron kicked this whole part of the discussion off with a fascinating reminder, a word that the entire business world uses, a word we owe to France.
It's a pretty sharp irony, isn't it? The country that literally gave us the word entrepreneur has somehow fallen behind in the global tech race. So why has Europe just kind of watched as the US and China pulled so far ahead? Well, Macron's diagnosis was surprisingly blunt.
He points to three really fundamental problems. First, a lack of scale, because of all the fragmented markets in Europe. Second, a huge misallocation of capital. He says there's plenty of savings, but it's just not flowing into those risky tech ventures where it's needed most. And third, it's a cultural issue, what he calls a low appetite for risk. In his view, Europe just has to get more comfortable with failure.
So Macron's solution is this massive investment plan. But how he plans to build a sovereign European tech industry, well, it reveals this fascinating paradox right at the heart of his strategy.
The main number here is just staggering. 109 billion euros for AI and tech infrastructure. And this isn't some small program. It's a massive all-in push to build data centers and supercharge France's whole tech ecosystem.
But then you start to look a little closer. You look at the funding and the technology behind this big push for sovereignty, and a pretty critical question starts to pop up. Because it turns out this very sovereign plan is actually a huge global collaboration. The funding involves partners like the UAE, the core technology is American, and it requires working directly with US tech giants. Which, raises the obvious question, how can you build your independence using foreign parts?
Macron's answer is pure pragmatism. As he puts it, it's way better to bring foreign capital and technology onto your own soil, where you can actually regulate it, than to just buy foreign solutions off the shelf. Because when you do that, you're also just handing over your data with zero protection.
And this idea, this concept of building independence through partnership, it goes way beyond just technology. It's really the core of his entire geopolitical vision, and he sees the relationship between France and India as the perfect example of this in action.
This quote, this gets right to the heart of his foreign policy. In a world that's being pulled in two different directions by the US-China rivalry, Macron is trying to carve out a third way for Europe and its partners.
The official term for this is strategic autonomy. Basically, it's the idea that a country, or a whole bloc like Europe, should have the power to act on its own, to follow its own path, without being forced to line up with either Washington or Beijing.
And this table just captures that strategic shift perfectly. It's all about moving away from that old world order, where you had to choose a side. You're either with Washington or you're with Beijing. Instead, he imagines a multipolar world, a whole network of independent powers, like France and India, shaping the global rules together.
So, with this grand vision for the future, where is Macron placing France's biggest bet? What's the one technological moonshot that he's really aiming for?
The interviewer asked him this point blank. Pick one technology where France could actually dominate by 2035. And his answer was, well, it was really ambitious and very, very specific.
His answer? Quantum computing. He argues that France has this unique edge here because it can combine its deep history of world-class mathematics with a now booming startup scene. He truly believes this is the one field where France can really lead the world.
But for all this forward-looking talk of moonshots and new world orders, the conversation actually ended on a more somber note. It revealed a leader who seems torn between this deep optimism and a profound concern for the future.
So on one side of the scale, you have his hope, the fact that there are more educated young people on the planet than ever before, which he sees as this incredible engine for innovation. But on the other side, there's his fear, the complete breakdown of international order. He described a new global arms race happening in a world with no predictable rules for security, calling it uncharted territory. So this is really the core of Macron's entire project. It's a delicate, high-wire act. It's about using global tools to build local strength, and it's about forging partnerships to create independence. It's a bold, bold vision for navigating a very complex new world. But it leaves us with one critical question. In a world of giants, can this third way actually succeed?